Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Talk Pelvic Health. This episode, we are going to talk about Kegels. So, to do Kegels or not to do Kegels, that is the question. Um, Kegels are an exercise that if you're a woman in America, likely a woman in the world, you probably have heard of it. Most of you have probably tried it, but probably I would say 2/3 of you actually are doing them correctly. So, what is a Kegel in case you don't know what it is? A Kegel is a contraction or a squeeze of your pelvic floor muscles. So, to do a Kegel correctly, you can think about stopping gas, you can think about stopping the flow of urine, although please do not try Kegels while you're going to the bathroom. Like while you're peeing, don't try to cut off the flow of urine as a daily Kegel practice. You could try it every once in a while to see if you're able to stop the flow. If you're not able to stop the flow, that might be a sign that your pelvic floor muscles are weak or that they're not working very well. But don't make that a place that you actually do practice Kegels on a regular basis. You could also think about closing the vagina. Some people say, pretending like they're going to pick up a blueberry with their vagina is another way to think about it. All of those are different ways to do Kegels. Kegel exercises were designed initially to help women who are suffering from incontinence, which is involuntary leakage of urine. So, incontinence can happen during coughing, sneezing, laughing, jumping, running. Those are common activities that stress incontinence occurs. It's not the only time. So that would be called stress incontinence, meaning there's a stress applied to your bladder or applied to your pelvic floor. And the pelvic floor muscles are the tissues that close around the urethra, the tube where your pee comes out. The tissues are not strong enough to keep that urine inside your body. That would be stress incontinence. Another type of incontinence is urge incontinence. So some people get the urge to go to the bathroom, and when that urge comes on, they have to go right away. And if they don't get to the bathroom in time, it's coming out. It might be a couple drops. They might completely pee their pants. There's a wide range of, how bad the incontinence can get. There's another type that's more common in elderly people called functional incontinence. And that one is more like if their mobility isn't good, they don't walk fast enough to the bathroom, their dexterity in their hands isn't good enough to get their pants down quickly enough, then they'll, have an accident while they're in the bathroom working on getting those things done. So Kegels can be an effective exercise sometimes. Okay. So if you've tried them before and you feel nothing happen, either your pelvic floor muscles are really tight already, which I find a lot in the clinic. Okay. So at rest, they're already clenched. So when you try to clench them tighter, they can't squeeze any tighter. Okay. In which case, Kegels are not going to fix your problem. Okay. In that case, what's going to fix your problem is doing some pelvic floor therapy. Manual therapy really inside the pelvic floor to kind of stretch the muscles and get them to relax, and then teach you breathing exercises to keep them relaxed so that when they're needed, they can contract. Okay, so if you don't feel anything happen when you do a Kegel, you might have overly tight muscles at rest. Okay, often when you have overly tight muscles, you will also experience some type of pelvic pain or urinary urgency frequency. Okay, pelvic pain can be like sacroiliac joint pain, low back pain, pain with intercourse, pelvic floor pain. So those things, those symptoms tend to go along with an overly tight pelvic floor. So I would not recommend doing Kegels if that sounds like you. Go see a pelvic floor therapist and have them evaluate your pelvic floor, and then you can try to go from there. They'll kind of walk you through the process. And then some people, their brain just doesn't connect with their pelvic floor. So if you try to do a Kegel and you feel nothing happen, it might be because you just really don't know how to do a Kegel. Okay. In which case, again, pelvic floor therapy is really helpful. So the pelvic floor therapist would either use a biofeedback tool, which is like a little probe that they insert into the vagina to kind of gauge how much muscle activity you have when you try to do a Kegel, or they would use their finger and basically do manual therapy to the pelvic floor muscles, and with their finger in there, they would gauge how strong your contraction is and give you different cues on how to make it better or worse. So if you're somebody that can do a Kegel and you think that if you got a little bit stronger, it feels like maybe you could cut off the flow of urine, there are different types of Kegels that you can do. So I call them front Kegels and back Kegels. But basically, you have pelvic floor muscles around the urethra, and then you have pelvic floor muscles around like the back of the vagina and the anus. Okay, so the front Kegels are going to target more urethral closure. So a lot of women don't know how to squeeze that part of their pelvic floor, which is why they're leaking with coughing, sneezing, laughing, jumping, running. So to get those muscles to contract, I often have to tell people to squeeze their labia together or to feel their clitoris tuck underneath their pubic bone. So if you think about that, you should feel kind of the front of the vagina around the labia or the clitoris get tighter. Okay, and then after you're done squeezing, it should relax. To get the back part of the vagina or the back part of the pelvic floor, you're going to think about closing the back of the vagina or the anus, or basically think about keeping gas inside your body. Most people are a lot stronger in that part of their pelvic floor. Okay, so if we're doing front Kegels, those muscles are designed to squeeze and let go fairly quickly. So I have people practice quick flicks, is what we call it. So you practice squeezing the labia together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then let it all relax, and then do a belly breath. If you don't know how to do a belly breath, please refer back to the video that I put out on belly breathing. If you're trying to strengthen the back of the pelvic floor, those muscles are more aimed at endurance. So they're set up to hold for longer periods. You might start out with anywhere from a 2 to like a 10-second hold. And then you relax for just as long as you held it. And then you take a belly breath in and hold that belly breath for just as long as you held it. Don't do Kegel, 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 Kegel without any rest or without any belly breath in between. Or you probably will get overly tight and start having issues because of that. So the answer to do Kegels or not to do Kegels is complicated. If you don't know, find a pelvic floor therapist, ask for their help. There are a lot of other things that play into being able to get rid of incontinence. So, your ab strength matters, your hip strength matters, C-section scars matter, other abdominal surgeries or pelvic surgeries matter. Scar tissue can bind down to the bladder or those muscles and cause problems. And so that would need the attention of a therapist to kind of guide you in how to rehab yourself through that. You can actually have neurological issues. You can have issues with the bladder itself. So, this is very rudimentary. Kegels are very rudimentary, but they are important for a large portion of the population. So try them. Don't overdo them. I don't recommend, when you're getting used to it, don't do more than like 10 a day. Really, you can get overly tight and sore and cause problems. And make sure you're belly breathing in between the Kegels, or you could also cause problems. But pelvic floor therapy is always a recommendation. If you've had a kid or you have any pelvic floor problems, please see a pelvic floor therapist. It will literally change your life. All right. Hope you guys have a good day.